Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and RFK Jr. does not hold back when this ridiculous Democrat slanders him in front of the rest of Congress and, of course, the nation. Let's dive in.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for your attention. In June, you fired every member of the well-qualified panel that was charged with recommending vaccines to the CDC. No one in your job has ever fired every committee member all at once. That month, you told the American people that you were, quote, going to bring great people onto the ACIP panel, not anti-vaxxers. Are you aware that one of the people you put on the panel, Dr. Robert Malone, claimed that the commonly used mRNA vaccine, quote, causes a form of AIDS and can damage children's, quote, brains, their heart, their immune system, and their ability to have children in the future? Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
And Dr. Malone is one of the inventors.
Yes or no? Yes or no? Were you aware that he had that view when you appointed him to this panel?
Dr. Malone is one of the inventors. As I said, Dr. Malone is one of the inventors of the mRNA vaccine, so he knows a lot more about it than I do.
Mr. Chairman, that statement is not true that Dr. Malone made, just as it wasn't true when you wrote that, quote, African AIDS is entirely different from Western AIDS. Are you aware that another one of these new members, Dr. Levy, wrote that, quote, evidence is mounting and indisputable that mRNA vaccines cause serious harm, including death, especially among young people? Yes or no? Are you aware that he said that?
I wasn't aware he said it, but I think I agree with it.
You agree with it? It's not true. It wasn't true when he said it, and it's not true when you said it. Secretary Kennedy, later this month, your new panel will meet to consider changing vaccine recommendations for American children. In addition to the COVID-19 vaccines, they are set to review recommendations for the hepatitis B vaccine, for measles, for mumps, for rubella and varicella vaccine, and the RSV vaccine. These are common back-to-school vaccinations for children all over the industrialized world. If you change that, you owe parents in Colorado and across the country the benefit of some transparency, I think. If your panel recommends changing the vaccine schedule for children, do you anticipate that fewer children will receive these common vaccinations, yes or no?
What I would say, Senator,
the obvious answer is yes. Should parents and schools of Colorado be prepared for more measles outbreaks as a result of that, Mr. Secretary?
Senator,
how about more mumps outbreaks?
I do not anticipate a change in the MMR vaccine. ACIP is an independent panel. So
well, it's a panel. You just put those folks on. Far from what you said, they're people with ideas that are completely outside the mainstream.
You mean out of the pharmaceutical paradigm?
Let me just say, Mr. Secretary, all these vaccines that we're talking about today are free and accessible to parents today in America who have the freedom to be able to make that choice for their children. Will that be true after your handpicked panel makes their judgments about these vaccines?
I think that parents should be free to...
I know you said that before. I do too.
To make their own choices.
So will they be just as free after these?
I assume they will be.
I will hold you to that, Secretary Kennedy. Because this is not a podcast. It is the American people's health that's on the line here. This is the last thing, by the way, our parents need when their kids are going back to school, is to have the kind of confusion and expense and scarcity that you're creating as a result of your ideology. I think it's critical for you to share the evidence that this panel will rely on. Will you give the American people 6 months or 6 weeks in advance the record that they're going to rely on to make these decisions? Will you make it transparent for the American people?
All the evidence is transparent.
Will you make it in advance transparent for the American people so they can comment on it?
All the evidence is transparent for the first time in history, and you were never there complaining when the pharmaceutical companies were picking those people and then running their products through with no safety testing.
You can characterize it any way you want. I quoted them today. What I said was accurate. What you said were lies. You described moving the Titanic.
Are you saying that the mRNA vaccine has never been associated with myocarditis or pericarditis in teenagers?
I am simply.
Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I am simply trying to say that the people that you have put on that panel, after firing the entire.
You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here,
You're
Mr.
evading
Kennedy.
that question.
I'm asking the questions,
I
Mr.
asked
Kennedy.
You a question.
I'm asking the questions for Mr. Kennedy on behalf of parents and schools and teachers all over the United States of America who deserve so much better than your leadership. That's what this conversation is about, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, they deserve the truth, and that's what we're going to give them for the first time in the history of that agency.
I think slander is too weak of a word to describe what's going on here. This isn't just political theater. This is grasping at straws. So on one hand, this makes me furious because why are you trying to drag RFK Jr. through the mud when you don't really have a leg to stand on here, bucko? The reality is we have scientific evidence that says, hey, what we have been told by the pharmaceutical industry might not be true. Here's some links to back it up. And meanwhile, these guys are walking around with blindfolds on saying, it's supposed to be dark outside. And the reality is, it's the middle of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and we're starting to notice that something ain't right. This is something that reminds me of the campaigns during the 50s, 60s, and 70s that said, smoking is actually good for you. Hey, don't worry about high fructose corn syrup and sugar. You need to focus on trans fats and saturated fats. Hey, your cholesterol levels are a little too high. Let's give you drugs that will do absolutely nothing to help you. RFK Jr. is trying to tell the world that, hey, there's something rotten in our scientific, in our bureaucratic abilities to overlook on the scientific community, and funnily enough, there's all these weird ties to major pharmaceutical companies. All right? I used to work in a plant making pre-workout and protein powders, and oh boy, was that a shady industry. Not just because of the people we hired, although I worked with great people for the most part. The reality was, we dealt in stuff that ain't exactly healthy for you, and it's not as sanitary as you would think. So yeah, I can say from direct experience that what we put in our food is crazy. And by the way, when a Democrat is invoking education and students, they might need to back down, because the only time they have cared about education is whether or not you can have a pride flag and a drag show for elementary and third graders. This makes me mad. And I'm sorry I'm getting a little out of composure here. But when a Democrat is talking about education, and when we have been given the bogus 1619 project, when we have our own heroes basically being told, well, as it turns out, Thomas Jefferson did this, therefore you can reject all the good things that he did. George Washington got his teeth from some of his slaves, therefore he's a bad human being. To judge history, okay, by modern standards is a lunacy and a fallacy. And the reality is, when you are great enough to create a country, I think you get a pass in the history books, not in the moral judgments. Because when you make moral judgments, that means that you have to have some sort of moral compass, which Democrats do not have. They have forsaken it, and now the only people that used to be blowing the whistle, like Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, and of course RFK Jr. himself, they've left the Democrat Party, they have joined the MAGA movement because they know something is wrong, therefore we need to question it and get down to the truth. Funny thing about science evolves, science changes. The way we learn about the world is always in flux because there's something new that we'll discover. We'll discover an entirely new species at the bottom of the ocean floor. We'll discover that a galaxy actually has a supermassive black hole in the middle of it, and that's how the whole thing stays stable. We're starting to figure out what dark matter actually is. Science is awesome. And when Democrats weaponize science, it always lands against the truth. The truth that men aren't women. Women aren't men. Okay? Males have different genetic makeups. There are differences in our genetics as human beings. That's why RFK Jr. made statements that he did, because it is so taboo to talk about in the United States. And again, this is actually a cool thing about our country. We're one of the rarest nations on earth, and that makes us one of the greatest nations on earth because we have a multi-ethnic culture that isn't at each other's throats. Okay, you have all these ethnic tensions going on in Russia. Don't look up the Chechen wars, okay? Russia has problems with it. Chinese don't like the Uyghurs. There are so many different peoples in the same nation where there's this huge constant struggle. We don't have that here. And yet the Democrats will weaponize that in a heartbeat because they want to deny science. They want to deny the fact that, yes, life begins at conception. They want to deny the very truths that ground us in reality because they would much rather see their utopia passed through fire and blood than they would see the slow progress of time. It is an absolute ludicrous position to take. And this Democrat is out there screaming that, oh, think of the children. This is the same dude that would probably wake up one day and say, how can I protect drag shows for children today? That doesn't help the kids. That just helps the ideas of adults, what they think about kids. And furthermore, when you have children, you have more skin in the game. And that's why younger parents love the Make America Healthy Again movement, because they're realizing, wait a minute, something is wrong with our food. And yet the Democrats have to deny this, in part due to their own incompetencies, but also in part to this reality. They helped create this mess. They do not want to take responsibility because they've been asleep at the wheel, or worse, the pharmaceutical companies have indeed bought them out, just like they did Elizabeth Warren. Remember, folks, Democrats mostly deflect and deny, but every now and then they love to project. That's what's going on here, and they're dragging RFK Jr. through the mud, despite the fact that, yes, the science is in his court, not in the court of public opinion amongst Democrat leaders. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Till then, y'all have a good one.